It's Keith here. It's plugged on, and not doing a Teen Wolf review for TV for once. This time, I decided to start doing The Walking Dead again. So we're doing the mid-season premiere, the 7th season of The Walking Dead. This one's called Rockin' the Road, and so it's essentially the first, the first storyline in the first episode and what would be the all-out war storyline, kind of from the comics. So Rick, his group, and Jesus have decided, and a lot of the residents of the hilltop have decided that they are going to rise up against the Saviors. And so they try to talk to Gregory at the hilltop, but Gregory is against going up against the Saviors. Yet a lot of the people of the hilltop will, and so, which is good, but Rick and the group lament that that they still don't have enough people. So Jesus says, "We should take you to go meet King Ezekiel," which, Rick kind of funnily just goes, "King," or however he talks. King. There you go. That's a better Rick impression. So they end up going there, and they end up going to the kingdom, and they see that there's a lot of people, and that these people are semi-trained in how to fight. And they reunite with Morgan, whom, there's the reunion, and he lies to Rick. He says that they came here, they brought Carol, and that he doesn't know where Carol is. But then he also tells Rick that he killed someone. So Rick and the group get their audience with Ezekiel, and they're trying to convince Ezekiel to bring the kingdom into the war. And Ezekiel kind of goes back and forth on whether or not he wants to do this. Later in the episode, it kind of seems like he's going towards doing this, but there's why should the Saviors, why should they go against the Saviors? It's a little windy here. I apologize. So I'm just gonna say that right now in case that shows up in the audio, but it probably shouldn't. But so Rick and the crew are there for a while. They stay the night. One of the younger Saviors, I think his name's Andrew, don't quote me on that, he goes out in the woods to try to train with a gun and with the stick, and he runs into Carol, which is another interesting thing, and they're kind of talking about how Ezekiel's going to keep checking up on Carol because he cares about her, and when Ezekiel's reading to this guy's nephew, and they kind of talk my dad said, if you're going to be the hero, be the hero. So Ezekiel's pondering everything, and then eventually he comes back the next day, and he decides to not help. He says, but they will give Daryl sanctuary from the Saviors because the Saviors don't come in the kingdom. How long that lasts remains to be seen. And so they end up leaving Daryl there. And so in a way it kind of becomes, I guess for the rest of the season, it'll be kind of Daryl's job to kind of help convince Ezekiel to join the cause. It's also worth note that Morgan decides to stay in the kingdom, and he's also against fighting. He's like, we should maybe avoid all this bloodshed, which, it's kind of, so he has changed, but not completely. But, so, Rick and group minus Daryl leave, but it turns out the highway is blocked off, with a bunch of cars. So they start moving a bunch of the cars, and they discover a steel line that has a lot of explosives wired to it. And they figure out through a radio that Jesus stole that it's for a horde that's coming. And they see the horde coming, but they're like, all right, we need these explosives. So they start carefully taking all the explosives off the wire. He tells Sasha and Jesus to go back to the hilltop and tell Maggie about what's happening. Rosita, and then while this is going on, Rosita, Tara, and Carl all try to go, and they try to put the cars back so that the Saviors don't realize that anything happened, but the horde's getting too close, and it's kind of cutting everybody off. So the steel wire is connected to two cars, and so Rick and Michonne get in the car, and they drive at the same time, and basically they take the steel wire, and they're basically decapitating a bunch of walkers, which is stupid, but it's cool. It's one of those dumb things that only The Walking Dead could do and get away with it. Eventually they regroup with everybody, and they go back to Alexandria, except over the radio they hear that Negan and them have realized that Daryl's gone, so they're sending out a search party. So naturally, they go to Alexandria, and so and the Saviors just wreck the place in search of Daryl. And during this, they find out that like a lot of the pantry and a lot of stuff has been raided. And in the beginning of the episode, you see Father Gabriel just kind of taking stuff and leaving. And so at first it seems like, oh, he stole all this stuff so that he stole all this stuff for himself. But then it turns out he left clues to try to go find them. So Rick and a bunch of people, including Aaron, they go out to try and find it, and they end up getting surrounded by a group. And the episode ends with Rick smiling, which is a weird thing. And that's where the episode ends. So this is another good continuation of season 7. This is a 75-minute episode, which I think is a little bit better than the 90-minute episodes, just because like there was like 3 or 4 90-minute episodes the last half of the season, and that just kind of bogged down because a lot of the 90-minute episodes were like obsessively long, and they didn't need to be. I feel like this episode worked. Like, again, you don't want to push the all-out war storyline too quickly, and so I think it's a good pace. And hopefully, with the coming weeks, it'll roll around, and then probably season 8 will be all-out war, or maybe it'll get resolved by the end of season 7. It just feels like they would go a little fast if they tried to resolve it there. The dynamics between all the characters is really interesting. You have like Sasha and Rosita, which Sasha's trying to bury the hatchet, but Rosita's like, we slept with the same dead guy. It doesn't mean we're friends. It's kind of just seeing like a lot of the same characters that we've seen a lot of. Gregory, and seeing Jesus, and seeing the relationship between Jesus and King Ezekiel, seeing how more of King Ezekiel, which is always a good thing. I mean, he was only really in those 2 episodes last season, so, or last half of the season, but, at least in terms of, so I heard a thing that they were toning down the violence in the show because a lot of people got upset. I'm assuming that's the human violence, because that scene with the walkers getting them decapitated is very violent, very gory, and very over the top. But they're probably turned down the human violence, because like I heard that with in episode 8, Fat Joey, when he gets beat, that was much more graphic, but they ended up cutting it down because again of people's outrage. Which is like, it's a zombie show. You're okay with people getting like pulled apart and like the heads getting decapitated and like just gore all over the place, but like it's just a part of the thing. Like I don't know. I don't get why they have to do that. Why it's all bad. Hopefully we do get more Negan. Like I hope that we still get to see him. Like I know that there was a lot of Negan in the first half, and honestly, a lot of people are saying there's too much Negan. I think there should still be a lot of Negan because keep him relevant. Because he's kind of, even in the comics, I believe he's still alive in the comics. Who knows, the mystery group at the end of the episode, that could be the Whisperers. That would be kind of cool if that was the Whisperers. Even though it would be a little early to introduce them, but I could see them maybe doing it. But then also this group wasn't, they didn't dress up as walkers, so who knows. The only thing that I hope really for the last half of the season is that, don't have like as many 90-minute episodes. Like maybe do the finale and maybe have one extra 90-minute episode. I think that would be good. Otherwise, don't overload us, because like I said, a couple of them like from last half of the season, a couple of them were just like, why was this 90 minutes? And like, why was this 90 minutes? And then we had a full episode with Tara, where Tara's a fine character, but it was just a boring episode. You know what I mean? Like, they just need to balance it. And I hope they do better of like, because that was part of the thing, was that there's all these stories that they're telling, yet it was kind of like individual episodes were telling individual stories. Maybe try to have them all in all the episodes. Now that it's not these 3 or 4 different isolated stories, it's all kind of one story. It'd be cool to actually kind of go to each one. And maybe not, plot lines don't get resolved each episode. But, The Walking Dead, is a show that doesn't really go by seasons, if that makes sense. It's more of like, there's a story, and it just so happens that it gets divided up into every 16 episodes. And sure, the seasons kind of end nicely, but it's not like, for example, I mean, it's just a show that I can comment on pretty good. Is like every season finale and mid-season finale of Teen Wolf, with the exception of one, could be the last episode of the show. Like the show could end there, and that would be fine. Whereas you can't do that with The Walking Dead ever. The Walking Dead's always evolving with the storyline, which isn't bad, but it's like, there's always just stuff going on. But then at the same time, each episode is like, we're gonna tell Daryl and Beth's story. Like in season 4, we're gonna tell Daryl and Beth's story during this episode, or we're gonna do a Daryl and the Sanctuary episode, and then we're gonna do an episode at the Hilltop, and then one for Tara, and then one for the Kingdom. And it's like, you do a bunch of these episodes like that. I hope that they kind of have a more generalized story this half the season. So I'm not going to be doing like a review thing where like I did with the last one, where I put a bunch of reviews on my personal channel. I'm just, I'm not as invested in The Walking Dead, if I'm in all honesty. But I will be doing this, and we'll be doing the season 7 finale in 2 months when that comes out. So I'll put up a review of that night. But then, other than that, yeah. Have a good day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out us. Tell us, heck, if you want, especially because I like doing TV stuff. If you want to mention like any TV shows that you think we should watch and that we should like review, let us know down in the comments, and let us know what you think of the episode. And I'll talk to you guys later.